I know for me, so that I have also kids in school, and one of my children was really struggling in the traditional classroom, and it was great to go digital for a minute, because I mean, and this is recognizing the privilege that I have being able to be home and attend to my children, but I could see him thrive better as he got one-on-one attention, which is really hard to do in a class of a lot of students, and so these are opportunities to help kind of even fill in the gaps as parents recognize where our children are thriving, and where we might be able to supplement a little bit too, based on whatever things our kids particularly might need. And as legislators, I think as a candidate, I'm especially paying attention to how we interact with public, and then the kinds of mandates that are put on, and how that trickles down into where the rubber hits the road with families and teachers and administrators. I mean, there's just this huge ecosystem to be more aware of.
Thank you. Kate, it looked like you had something to say.
Yeah, I just loved what Tori was talking about with being outside and active and physical, because as we talk about good education systems, oftentimes people talk about Finland, and the success there is largely based on the fact that they have a 15-minute break for every 45 minutes of instruction. And I think that makes me kind of panic a little bit, because I'm like, where's all of the educational time going? But it shows that, I mean, the research shows that the kids that get more creative time, more free play time, more time outside can benefit a lot greater. So I agree. I think this would be a great opportunity for us to kind of experiment and try new things with COVID. My biggest fear is trying to cram everything in, or being asked to cram everything in a shorter amount of time. And I'd rather kind of explore with that. So Tori, you've given me a lot to think about. I think I'm going to go back to that. You want to respond, Tori?
Can I add something? I feel like in America, we do too much too soon. And I feel like our children could benefit from, like, I was reading something this morning and last night about an unhurried education. I do a lot of different educational philosophies. One of them I really resonate with is Waldorf philosophy, and it's a very slow, gentle academic. You teach something, and then the child sleeps on it, and you kind of repeat it. Just as an example of, they just slow it down. And I feel like COVID could be a time, if the legislature allows, because I understand the stress that teachers are under, because they're like, I have to teach this and this and this and this and this. But I feel like if we could somehow alleviate that from within the system, it would give the teachers like the freedom to go outside for 15 minutes. Because I don't feel like I can feel the stress in you. Like you can't, because you have requirements. But if we could just, like, I don't know, simplify it and make it unhurried, I think that would be so good. Later on, just even as they're adults, I feel like children would become less anxious and less stressed, and like less worried about like the next big step, and just be in the moment and be able to like just learn to love learning, and to learn that just being creative is an end of itself, not just I am doing this so I learn my math facts so then I can be in calculus in 7th grade, so I can get a scholarship to go to a college, so I can get a good job. Because by the time you get the job, you're like, I just not wasted, but it was just like this stressful buildup of so many things. So and this is from my perspective as a very stressed, anxious person. So I tried to like calm down, because I realized all of that was not necessary. And like the result, I love public school. I love my schooling so much. But I think part of the result was I am more stressed than I need to be about life, you know? So like if we could start with the kids, I think it would have a big impact throughout society.
And I'm taking, I don't mean to talk so much, but I'm taking my arts endorsement, or I'm getting classes for my arts endorsement right now. And it's phenomenal. And it wasn't until I started taking this, I realized how high strung I was, because as a teacher, because I mean, particularly because I teach dual immersion and I only have half the day to teach everything that I need to teach to the kids, but taking this course and learning about the research and how the brain works, that the kids really do need that opportunity to be creative, to rather, and which is why one of the top TED Talks of all time is Sir Ken Robbins, and he talks about is our schools killing creativity, which I hope not. I hope that I can like engage my kids in creativity every now and then, but I think it's a good time now to kind of, for teachers as well, to reevaluate our teaching styles and find a way to like take a step back and take a breather and engage more like in that outdoor environment and in the arts, and just have a lot more fun. That's what I miss about teaching, is fun.
It's kind of almost ironic though to say be less stressful in this very stressed time, but I think it's kind of the end. I think it's what we need, but it seems very challenging.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And Amy?
I just want to add, to go along with all of that, is I think this is our chance as a society to look at the assessment part of education, because I think that's where, I mean, we don't like to say we teach to the test, but we teach to the test. That's our end result. And I love Tori's point of view about the I mean, we should be helping our kids. This is our chance to help our kids tap into what is it that they're interested in. If you want to learn about how toilets work, awesome. Let's learn about how toilets and sewer systems work. And you can do stuff with that, right? If you have a boy and he wants to learn about farts, great. Let's learn about farts. I mean, let's put it in a way that they're excited, because our world is amazing. And I think kids have a natural excitement and curiosity. So I think the assessment portion of that is, I think we have an opportunity to reevaluate that piece of it. And I think that's a huge problem. I was so nice last spring not having end of year assessments, and my kids were a lot more excited about what they were learning, and I was a lot more excited for them. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of teachers were like, woohoo. The ones I talked to were like, yes, like we can focus on the learning, not on, are they going to pass this exam? Like I think we need to take a real hard look at that part of it too.
And you sound like you have a boy in like second or third grade.
Yeah. Poop, fart, boogers, all of it.
Yeah. In third grade, that's how it works for us too.
Yeah. Well, a quick comment about the assessments. I remember when I was in elementary school, those early grades, and we'd have a test. And so I wouldn't read the question. I just fill out the bubble sheet of A, B, C, D, then C, B, A, and get these nice designs on my bubble sheet. So I really question the effectiveness of a lot of our assessments. Oh, Danae, you got a comment. Oh, you're on mute.
So I didn't mean to, I know Catherine wants to say something too, but as a teacher, a lot of my best students are the ones that do the worst on the test, because they want to read their books. And so they know they get to read as soon as they're done. And so they just sit there and they just whip through that test as fast as they can go. And I think right now the test doesn't matter to the students. It doesn't go for a grade, which there's a lot to be said about grades in school. I mean, grades do not equal learning. But there's no motivation for them to do well on the test, really. And so a lot of them don't care, and they do whatever they want. And because of that, I don't really care a lot. I've never really worried that much about the test, but I'm not an elementary school teacher. I know it's like a whole different ball game in elementary than it is in secondary. So I teach English. I teach everything that they need to know, but I don't ever worry about the tests. But I do know in elementary, it's a lot more stressful from what I hear.
Yeah, I teach third grade, and that's the first year that we do the stage. Well, now it's the RISE test, and I'll be honest, it's not my favorite time of year, because the kids aren't used to using the computers, and That's been a challenge too, is they say we need to have you test on these computers, and yet a couple of years ago we had one class set of computers for 6 teachers. Fortunately, they've changed that this year. There will be a 1-to-1 student to computer ratio, but for the longest time it's like, come on, we can't jump through these hoops if you don't give us the resources we need. So but yeah, we'll see how computers maybe help things a little bit better. But if we could just revise the test and make it simpler, or I don't know, non-existent, I'd be for that too.
Well, if I can just jump in, because I taught 4th grade, which is when they add the science portion, right, of end of year testing. And Kate, I think you're absolutely right. We spent so much time training them how to take the test on like the logistics of taking the test. It was stressful. Anyways, but I do believe in assessments. I mean, we need to be able to assess how they're doing so that we can help them. I am not against assessments. I just am against, and I feel like we have an opportunity to, change up the impact in our curriculum, the impact in, anyways, I do think assessments help drive instruction, but I agree too with Danae that the kids don't care. And so if we can just help them tap into that natural desire to learn about their world. I used to tell my students that our job is to be Da Vinci's of our world, right? He was into so many different things. He was a true Renaissance man, and that's our goal. We want Renaissance learners, and how do we do that better, I think, is the real question.
Very nicely put, Renaissance learners, which is very important in our work in the workforce, because things are changing so fast and technology is advancing. We do need many Da Vinci's. So, question for each of our candidates: what should our civic leaders do to help with school expectations being modified?
Can I go first with that?
Yes.
So I think it's egregious that, we're so concerned about school, and we say we can't open the economy, we can't get back to normal until school's back to normal. And then we have 80% of the board that makes all those decisions in the state businessmen. I think it's egregious that more educators aren't involved in this. And I think that's just a testament to the tone deafness of the legislature right now and the leadership in Utah. I just think the first thing we need to do, just like Danae was saying, is let's listen to teachers, because they might have something, that's helpful in this, instead of all business leaders making all the shots. And I think until we value educators a little more, I just think we're pretending that we're trying to solve the problem. So I think there needs to be more seats at the table for educators, especially when we look at reopening schools and reopening the economy. I don't think we can have a conversation about reopening the economy without educators. So that would be the first step, I think.
Nicely said.
I'd also just like to speak to the fact that reform is probably going to be the first step to getting anything changed, because the way that our government is set up right now is businesses and lawyers. And I mean, it's not that these individuals don't have our interest in mind, but it's just the way that we've been doing it for so long. We're not going to see any changes because they've already set up the system that they're comfortable with. And so we have to think outside of the political box if we want things to change. And we have to start looking at other ways of seeing our political problems instead of it as, two parties fighting for something. It really can be just people working together and finding practical solutions. And just like Piper said, including the people that are going to be impacted by the changes that we make. From the whole range of spectrum, asking parents and talking to healthcare providers and educators, and you can still include businessmen for sure. I mean, this is a table where all should feel invited. And I think it's all about working at changing the way that we see politics, for sure.